Welcome to the ultimate preview of the ICC T20 World Cup in Dubai and the UAE. It is going to be a massive World Cup. It's the Women's T20 World Cup. Australia have won the last two of these World Cups, so they are being the hunted in this series. And today I'm just going to go through a quick 5-10 minute preview about the World Cup, some players that you should keep an eye out for if you're going to watch the World Cup, and also just my predictions on who I think will make it to the semi-finals. I won't do my finals predictions, but I'll do who I think will make it to the finals. Now, as I said in the first video, this channel isn't going to be as consistent as my last channel, but I did it just cause. But I'll still try and get 2-3 videos out a week. But I've started in the off-season for this reason, just so I can get back into the rhythm of filming videos. I know it's the shittest time to start. I should have probably waited till February next year or January next year to start, but I want to start at this time just to get back into the rhythm of filming videos, and also so I can improve my graphics before, doing my graphics before that as well. Now, let's get into it. Let's have a look quickly at the warm-up matches. So, the warm-up matches that we've seen so far, these are just the warm-up matches are still going tonight. There's 3 others tonight. I'm filming this on the Tuesday. This video will be out hopefully on the Wednesday afternoon. So the rest of the other 3 warm-up matches would have already been complete. But these just give me a pretty good idea of my predictions and what I'm going to predict for the series. So New Zealand ran over. There's some really low scores in here, like it's bizarre. I thought these were rain-delayed games, but there are some really low scores in here. New Zealand and South Africa. South Africa scored 92 in their 20 overs, all out. So, obviously, obviously, the wickets over there, I've heard from people on social media and in the media back here in Australia, that the wickets are low, flat, and slow. So, I don't think it's going to be a great wicket to play big shots on. I think we're going to see a lot of low-scoring games. I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of the games have scores under 120, which, of course, in T20 cricket, 120 balls is the amount of balls you get in a T20. So we might see some really quick, less than 2-hour games maybe because of that reason, especially against some of the world-class teams. So we have a look here at some of the scores, like Laura Wolvaert, who's a really, really good batter, likes to play aggressive cricket. She scored 33 off 37 of her innings in that game against New Zealand with only 1-4. So it's tough to score boundaries. Like in the South African innings, from what I can see here, there was only, 5 boundaries. All of them were 4s. No one hit a 6. So already we can see that it's going to be a tough wicket to bat on. The highest score on the wicket so far is 162, and that was by the 2-time world champs, the Australians, in the last 2 years. They played against England in Dubai. Now, I don't think these are other cricket grounds that the World Cup's actually going to be played at. I think these are just other cricket grounds around Dubai. So this might not be a very good gauge of them. But I've heard they're going to be low-scoring games, probably really conducive to spin. I haven't seen the wickets and what they look like, but I'm kind of picturing wickets like a wicket when you go to like Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, where they've got a lot of cracks in them. It's going to be like 35 degrees, 36 degrees each day, probably up to the 40s. So it's going to be hot in Dubai and Sharjah where they're playing the game. So I would think it's going to be quite hot, quite fatiguing, and quite slippery as well, the times the games are played. Hopefully, like I saw a game there, and it was night time, it was still like 33 degrees. So it's going to be hot, I reckon, no matter what time the games are played. But they're the warm-up matches. They're just some of them. You can go online to the ICCcricket.com page if you want to look at the results throughout this World Cup. If you want to watch the World Cup, you can watch it on Prime Video and Amazon, I think it is. I've got some players who I think you should watch out for throughout this series. Some really good ones as well, I think. Some really unknown names in this list that I've got here for players you should watch. But I feel like I didn't want to go with the same simple people that we always hear about in world cricket. I wanted to go with some new people. And some of these people that I'm going to watch throughout this World Cup, I've never seen either. So some of these players are going to be very foreign. Like for the first time ever, Scotland are taking part in the Women's World Cup. I didn't actually know they had a team. I don't even know if they've played a T20 in the last year. Scotland, they probably have. It starts on the 3rd of October, so I'm getting this video out the day before, hopefully. Bangladesh and Scotland Open. And before we go any further, actually, I should probably tell you the groups, each group, because that would make sense before I continue and rabble on. So Group A is the group of death, I've called it here. It is the world-class teams, Australia, India, New Zealand, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka are Group A. So that's going to be the tougher group. You feel like I wouldn't count anyone out in this group. I think people look at this and say, well, you can count out Sri Lanka and Pakistan. But I think Pakistan are a real chance in this World Cup. I think they've got some real depth. I think Sri Lanka are also an almighty chance. But I just don't see either of those two teams that I've mentioned making it, just based on the fact of who they have to play. If they were in the other group with Bangladesh, England, Scotland, South Africa, and the West Indies, I'd still say they probably won't make it. But Group B, to me, is underrated. It's the underrated group. I think it's the group of underdogs. I think someone from Group B, it wouldn't shock me if one of them go all the way and win the whole thing. I think you look at South Africa, you look at the West Indies. West Indies in world cricket are a team that doesn't really have too much success. No offense to them, but I don't think they have too much success in world cricket. Bangladesh also have some really positive signs. I think one underdog is going to be Scotland. I was listening to people the other day talking about who they think an underdog will be. I think we're going to see, I think this World Cup will spin out some of the most weird results we've seen. Like, I reckon there's going to be a game where maybe there's a heavy favourite. For example, England maybe against Scotland, and Scotland surprise them and they just lose Scotland or something. I don't know. I think because the conditions are a chance for some real underdog stories in this World Cup, some real record-breaking stories, whether that's a nation beating another nation for the first time, whether that's a team that's expected to make the semi-final misses out. But I think there's some real chances throughout this World Cup where a team can really stake their claim and say, we're here, we want to play world cricket. Let's move on to the players to watch in this series. Now, there are some big players, and I'm going to start. There's a lot of all-rounders on this list, so the list will come up. I don't know what side. It might come up this side, the graphic, or it might come up this side, depending on where I'm standing at the time of filming. I think it will probably be this side, though. But the first player I've got to watch is Dipti Sharma. Now, I think she's going to be a real factor for India. I looked at her stats, and I haven't seen I don't think India have played much T20 cricket this year, to be honest. I think they've played a bit of Test cricket. She's an all-rounder, Dipti Sharma. Right arm off break sort of bowler. So I think she'll get a lot of variation. She plays in different world competitions as well. She plays for the UP Warriors, the Western Storm in England. She plays for the Birmingham Phoenix. So she's a really well-known player, and I think a lot of players in this list you'll see bowl spin or are spinners, because I think these wickets are going to be quite good for spin, conducive to the spin part of the game. And another one of those is Georgia Wareham. She's had a standout year. She, as an Australian, I'd know this more than anyone that's watched cricket, but 25, a bowler, leg break bowler. She's world-class, really. She should be an all-rounder. She's not classified as an all-rounder. I've given her cut some slack, Georgia Wareham, and made her an all-rounder. I think she should be an all-rounder. Her status should really change from bowler to all-rounder. The next one's another all-rounder. And this lady, well, we saw her last summer in Australia, just pre the summer in November last year, and she was superb. 2 centuries in Australia last year. She dominates world cricket, Hayley Matthews, the West Indian, and I think she's going to play a big part. I think she's one of those players who can be versatile. She can bowl early in the innings. She could also bowl middle overs. She bats at the top of the order. So out of anyone in the West Indian side, she probably won't get a bat, because there are some really positive names in terms of the bowling stocks coming out of the West Indies. Some really, really good players coming out of the West Indies in terms of bowlers. I know Fletcher's one of those. I'm just trying to look and see. Because Fletcher, we know they have Chanel Henry, Zeta James, Ali Raleen as well. So they have some really, really talented players, the West Indies, and I think they're one of the bigger underdogs coming into this World Cup. Next up is Nohina Akhtar, and she is, now I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I've tried to look up how to pronounce her, but it's hard when you're from Australia. You don't really know. It's hard to, I don't want to be offensive to people if I pronounce their name wrong, but, it's hard to exactly get it right. But Nohina Akhtar is a slow left arm bowler. So we don't see too many left armers around, especially bowling spin. So I think she could offer a bit. She's taken 99 wickets apparently here in 86 bowling innings. So she's played 87 matches for 99 wickets, the best of 5 for 8. So she does get it. She averages around 16 runs that she concedes, I think it is. So she is a pretty common bowler throughout the Bangladesh team. And I think Bangladesh are another one of those sides who we don't know too much about coming in. But I think that's going to be the good thing of this World Cup. We don't know anything about Dubai and the pitches and Siraja that they're going to produce. But we also don't know about some of these unknown players, like Mahino Akhtar, who's going to play a big part, I think, in the 24-year-old right-handed bat. I think she'll probably bat in the lower to middle order. I think she's a pretty decent player. Like, I've never seen her, to be honest. I've actually never seen vision of her, but I would say she'll probably bat around that 8 to 9 mark. Not their worst batter, but I also don't think she's their best. But yeah, I think she could make things happen. Next up is Amelia Kerr. Now, she recently, just less than a month ago, had a series. It was like 2 weeks ago, actually, here in Australia. And she's superb. She's another one of those spinners who I think is going to have a big say throughout this series, Amelia Kerr. World class, really. She's got relations throughout world cricket, the Kiwi international, and I think she's going to play a big part. We saw only recently in the series against Australia, she was a big part of the series, and I think she'll be another big part as well, the leg break bowler. So I think she's going to play a big part, as I said, on these wickets with spin that are conducive to spin. I think she's one of the bowlers that we're going to have to look out for throughout this World Cup. Bowler coming up next is Taha Maksud, who is a bowler. A lot of these players in this list, as I said before, are bowlers. The Scottish international, really looking forward to seeing what she can produce. I feel like I was only just talking about Scotland, so maybe I accidentally repeated myself. But I feel like she's going to be a real big player in this series. As we know, we don't know too much about the Scottish and what they're going to produce throughout this World Cup. So it's a real unknown, like I was saying earlier. I think we're going to get a lot of unknown. Taha Maksud, I think she'll offer a bit with bat and ball. Alright, next up, we're going to have a look at Nonkuno Meleko Malaba, who is the South African international, and don't mind me, I love saying that, by the way. She came to Australia last summer, and it was one of the best names to pronounce. But she was a standout last year for me. Like, she didn't bowl the greatest, let me be honest. She didn't have the greatest action. She didn't bowl the fastest. She didn't offer a lot. The slow left-arm orthodox spinner. But what I did think that she was good at was just hitting the line, hitting the same line each time. And I think a lot of the bowlers I've had in here are spinners, and it's for the purposeful that I think spinner, the wickets, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some teams going out there playing 3 or 4 spinners in the first or second game. Maybe in the second game especially, because you feel like the first game, a lot of teams will be just testing the wicket out. She's arguably the best player right now in world cricket, Shamali Atapattu. Really solid top order batter for Sri Lanka, and she kind of drags that batting order. Apparently, I've heard that recently there's been some other players lower in the order chipping in for Sri Lanka in terms of their knocks, but I think she's the big one this series. I think if you let her get into an innings, 10, 15 balls, I think she's going to really make you pay. But in saying that, it is tough wickets. The Sri Lankan captain, she was ranked 5th in the ICC T20 rankings recently, which led her country to the first Asia Cup title. So she's really, she can also have a really accurate off spin. So it'll be interesting to see, depending on who Sri Lanka whip out in the series, who they go with in terms of bowlers. But I think she's going to play a big part. Next up is Nida Dar for Pakistan. I think she's going to be another one, Pakistan, Nida Dar, who she came to this Australia 2 years ago, I think, and she's one of the veterans of the side, and I think she's going to play a really critical role in the middle order for Pakistan with the bat, but also with the ball. And last up, Sophie Eccleston, once again, another spinner who I think is going to play a huge part, and she can also bat, Sophie Eccleston, so it's one of the good things they have, England, some real depth in the batting and bowling stocks, so a real opportunity for Sophie Eccleston as well. So they're the players I think you guys should watch. There's the list right there. But they're the players that I think you guys should look out for. Now let's have a look at my predictions for the semi-finals. Now, the groups, once again, Australia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, New Zealand, and India make up Group A. Group B is England, Scotland, Bangladesh, West Indies, and South Africa. So the top 4 make it from what I've heard. I think it's the top 4, the top 2 from each group make it. And I think the way it works is first place first and second place second. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I would assume that's the way it plays out. So these are just my predictions. I think I'm not going to go through the ladder and who I think will finish first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. I'm just going to do the top 2 from each group. So Group B, I'm going to have England finishing top of the group. I think they'll finish top of the group, and I'm going to go with a surprise. Now, everyone probably thinks South Africa's going to make it. I think the West Indies are actually going to finish in the semi-finals, and they're going to finish second, the West Indies. I think this wicket, they'll like this wicket, the West Indies. It'll be similar to the ones in the Caribbean. And I actually think they're going to surprise everyone here in this series. I think South Africa won't be far behind, don't get me wrong. But I think the West Indies are going to finish second. In Group A, I've got Australia and India. I just think, once again, those 2 teams are probably a given. New Zealand have struggled. I think they've only won one of their last 13 or 14 in T20 internationals. A team, New Zealand, who need to pick up the pace because they've lost like 13 of their last 15 T20 internationals. And if they want to be a threat in this World Cup, they're going to have to get it fixed quick smart. I think Sri Lanka are another team who are unlucky. Pakistan, once again, I think Neither Dar's going to have to do a lot with the bat and the ball, I feel, if they get, well, especially with the bat, I think if they're going to get home. But they're the top 4. I think making the final. I think my prediction for the final is India and Australia. I think Australia, based on my predictions, Australia will beat England and India will thump the West Indies. I think the Indians will absolutely pound the West Indies, headlined by Smriti Mandana and Jimmy Rodriguez. But yeah, that is the video. A pretty long one. These sort of preview videos are going to be quite long. I wanted to make it the ultimate preview. That's it. Let me know down below if you've got any content ideas. I have a couple in mind, but I've just got to get them out and film them and make the graphics. Like, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. I've enjoyed bringing it to you.